Hello and welcome to episode 9 of The Money Talks, our weekly segment from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. every Thursday evening. We've got Srinath, Ravichandran. Hi, Srinath. How are you?
Hi.
Welcome.
Yeah, I'm doing good.
I think your story is such an amazing story that needs to be told. I think, especially not from what it does for the country, but also from the perseverance that it's taken for you to come here. So let's start off by Srinath, tell us a little bit about what does Agnikul do, right? And what do you do for Agnikul?
Okay. So Agnikul, we are building a small rocket, right? A launch vehicle, as they call it, that takes, really small satellites to space. So the context is that, today, if you are a small satellite player, and there are a lot of small satellite players, by the way, it's hard to go to space because you need to ride on a really big rocket. So we are sort of building like a taxi for, taking stuff from Earth to space. That's what Agnikul is doing. And what do I do at Agnikul? One of the co-founders of the company.
Why do you call it Agnikul? What's the secret behind this name?
So I'm this believer that, we are always learner, right? Lifelong learner. So that is sort of the idea. So the Gurukul concept is what was, behind this name. So it was sort of like a place where you come to learn about fire. So it was like a Gurukul for Agni related stuff. So that's what is Agnikul. So that's how we thought about it. It's more from you're always a student of nature. That is the angle that we're trying to bring.
I know a lot of the components of your rocket are also named, I think, Agniban, right? And then
Agniban, yeah. So actually, Agniban literally means arrow of fire, and that's the Sanskrit word for rocket. I didn't know this till I was googling that.
Oh wow, neither did I. Wow. Learn something new. Wow. Okay.
And the launch pad is Dhanush, which is actually a bow. So the arrow and the bow also come together. So I think that's how we named it.
You're really into Sanskrit, it seems, or are you really into mythology? Which one is it?
We started off with Agnikul, right? And from there, it slowly just got connected automatically. Yeah.
Before we get into Agnikul, Srinath, let's talk about you, right? I think of all the founders I've met, forget about met, but let's talk about the founders I've invested in, roughly about 240 of them. I think you're one of the most unique stories, right, in all of them. And I'm not saying it lightly because there's some really amazing stories in there. But I don't think people know that you didn't start off life as an aerospace engineer, right? You were actually a financial engineer who got educated at Columbia. And for almost 9 years, you were on the other side of the table. You were on our side of the table with a lot more money, obviously, right? You worked for AXA and AIG in the US for 9 years. After doing that, or while doing that, you also taught yourself how to make movies. So you went to the Film Academy, right? And you hold a degree at the New York Film Academy as well in filmmaking. And then suddenly, you're now, today we're talking to you like, hey, you're going to make rockets to go to space, right? So tell me a little bit about this journey. I think we really want to know, like, where does a financial engineer, obviously making a ton of money in the US because you're working for these amazing companies, land up in Madras trying to make rockets to go to space? How does that happen?
Yeah, so it's a long story. So I'll try to keep it as short as I can so that we can have time for other questions.
This is the fun part, so take your time.
Okay. Right. So, I mean, I've always been an aerospace enthusiast, right? So I was always like, awe of the universe, so to speak, literally, right? Driven by science fiction. I was a big reader of Arthur C. Clarke, hard science fiction where you're never too far away from physics. It's almost like 50 years away. So that was what was driving me. And then it's time to take my first engineering degree in India. So, and then I really wanted to do aerospace at that time. But people around me told me that, I won't get any job other than that in ISRO, which is still true, I guess. So they're right. Anyway, at least at that time they were right. I did electrical engineering. Actually, a lot of people in my family are having a science background, physics background. So actually, I really loved electrical engineering as well. And then I went on to do some electrical engineering work in India at ABB. And then this is when it really sunk in that everyone around me, in your college, you have a gang. And all of them in my gang were like doing MBA or doing something in finance. And my interest was really big. And I know nothing about finance at that time. So that's why I went into finance and went in 2008, which showed me like a very dark shade of New York, so to speak, right? Because that was really one of the bad times to be in New York. I was doing all of these things till the thirst for engineering was consistently there. And when I started doing finance full time, I realized that money is important, but I cannot, I don't have passion enough to do really well in finance because I would like to do something in engineering. That itch is always there. So that is why the aerospace thing was there. Filmmaking was an interesting twist. I just wanted to really know what I like.
Okay.
And I just wanted to try a lot of different things before like going back to aerospace, because, by then I'd already changed careers 2 times, right? Like once I'd gone from electrical engineering to finance, and now I'm already looking at aerospace. So I was like, okay, wait, am I just like, just jumping from one place to the other without knowing what I'm doing? So it's a bit of soul searching actually. And I absolutely love filmmaking and script writing. Writing part of it, I really, really love. It was more of a way to understand myself a little bit. And even now I tell my friends also, like if I had not been in aerospace, I'd probably be doing something in the filmmaking side. I think that is as close as it gets in terms of passion. So yeah, that I tried, but then I realized, no, the itch for engineering was actually a little more. So yeah, did a degree again in aerospace engineering, which I still have a couple of courses pending in, by the way. And then I moved to LA and then networked with a lot of people who were working in SpaceX and around that industry, and then came back. So that's sort of, it's basically just the search for what you really, really love from childhood. That's it. That is what it is.
I don't think your passion for filmmaking is going to go waste, right? I think the kind of story you have, just like we have Padman, right? We might one day have something called Rocket Man or Agniban Man, right? In India. And maybe you could also be the director for the movie, right? So
that'll be a really bad movie for a story that's good. So let's not go that way. But yeah, I also think there's so many things that align. So I would probably call it the Agnikul team movie or something. But yeah, definitely.
visited your team in Madras, right? IIT Madras, and obviously we're going to talk about how you got there. But what was really exciting about meeting your team was the kind of passion that just within those 60 people that were sitting inside, roughly 2,000 square feet, right? And you got 60 people, and most of the guys are PhDs or masters, but there's so much passion in that room to put India into space, right? On a commercial level. I think a lot of that energy flew into our team, right? Because I remember the first time when Vinod and Gauri came back from your office, and they were like, man, nothing else. We got to invest in the team. Forget about whatever they're making. They could be making bullock carts that go to space. It doesn't matter. But we got to invest in the team. And obviously, I visited the day we were wiring the money. And we're like, okay, I have to meet these guys before I put in the largest check I have from this fund. I mean, you could see the passion, right, that flies through it. Before we move into the next, how do you get so many interesting people that have degrees? And I'm sure many of these guys could, really get high-paying jobs in industry outside. But you've got them obviously held together by a common passion. Whichever founder who's logged in today, always wants that kind of passion on the team. That they'll do whatever it takes. And I believe you've got a team that it does. So how do you do that? Can you maybe impart some gyan for us on how that's possible?
So couple of factors, right? One thing is the fact that doing some work like this is really cool. So space has that attraction to itself. And a lot of people who love space, I think there is this passion automatically comes with people who like space. There is never this, I kind of like space stuff. You either really, really love space or you don't even follow it. So a lot of people who are coming in already have that. Yeah. And the other part is, I think once people come in, they quickly realize that the kind of work we're doing, like for people who really want to do engineering, there is too much to do and too much fun to have. So I think that is what actually keeps people going. And we are very, like both me and my other co-founder Moin, right? Both of us are very hands-off. If people are delivering, we just like stay back and be like, okay, you just give me updates whenever you're done, kind of thing, right? And we could do the other extreme too when people are probably struggling. But the point is, once the group of people actually find out that there is so much fun to have, and that itself keeps things, automatically going. Once that happens for some time and you see actual hardware, which is tangible, like you can touch an engine, that again changes the whole story. I'm really thankful to have a team like this, because the number of bad days to good days literally is like 1:100, right? You have 100 days where things don't work. And that's how hardware is. It's not specific to Agnikul, but little more so with rocket stuff. 100 days of things don't work. You're debugging, and then it just works. Yeah. So that, I just feel like that itself gives them a high that keeps them going for the next 100 days. So yeah, it's a combination of their own, attitude and the challenges that we have as well. I think those are two reasons.
You've been able to bind, again, Moin and I just logged in a few seconds ago. I think both of you guys have, obviously your own passion is very visible, but I think you've also been able to put your team together on solving a single cause, right? There's only one cause for the team. And I think that makes a huge difference, right? When there's only one person to kill, when there's only one team to beat, right? It's much easier to galvanize people together, And I think I'm really, really, really excited about those prospects for Agnikul. So good. Let's talk about. I know there's an exciting story, and you know why it's exciting to me, right? But why don't you tell me that? So there's a guy that is obviously sitting way out there in New York, in LA. You know, he's making money, and he's like, I got to start this rocket company, and I want to do it for the country. I want to do it for India. But who in India is actually gonna
Yeah,
accept
help.
my rocket idea, right? So
Exactly.
how does somebody from there, and you've never been to any IIT, you're not an
I'm not an
IITian, right?
IITian. Yeah.
And yet you get incubated at IIT Madras, right, in their rocket engineering
Yeah.
platform, the program, and the best professor is helping you out. You've got
Right.
amazing support from the ecosystem over there. How does that happen? Maybe would love to understand how someone can actually make their dreams come true. Let's hear that story.
So this story goes back to 2015, right? Which is when I realized that I had to do something in aerospace, and rockets actually had a little bit of a business angle. I mean, now I understand it much more clearly, but at that time it was more like, yeah, this sort of thing would work. And but I knew that even though I was making some money, but I knew I didn't have the kind of money. Like that is why I don't fully identify with the Elon Musk comparison that sometimes happens, because he started off at $200 million from selling, PayPal, right? Which I didn't have my PayPal, so to speak. So that is a challenge. So anyway, so I knew that an academic institution would be the way to go. So that was very clear. Also, the fact that in US as an Indian citizen, it's a little hard to get into aerospace, particularly because it is a bit of a dual space, dual use technology. So you can't easily get in there. So India was the obvious option. So then I made a list of all the IITs that are really good in, rocketry. And obviously Chennai was one. We also had Bombay, Kharagpur, Kanpur, a few of these. And I just went through a list of, mailing every single prof that I could think of who was doing something. And sometimes I used to put myself in these people's shoes, right? Like, you get an email from someone who's saying that, yeah, he's in LA, or yeah, that time was in LA, and it's like he wants to start a rocket company and he doesn't have a background in aerospace, so to speak. So most of it would be like one of these spam emails, I'm sure. So I don't blame the people who didn't really get back. And most of these professors I was reaching out were already super busy. Like the list of projects they're working on was already super packed. I think some 70, 80 cold calls, most of them no replies. Like I have this frequency, like once in 10 days, then once in 20 days, once in 1 month. Keep doing this till it comes to a point where really the person would not reply. And then I'm like, okay, we'll try back after a year or something. So that was the routine I was trying to follow. And then one random thing happened. So my fiance at that time, so my wife now, she and I were having a random conversation, and she said, hey, I know this person who seems to have something on aerospace on Twitter. So probably you should reach out to him. That is all it started with. So I reached out to him. He's actually one of our advisors. His name is Shekhar. He's here in Tamil Nadu only. He heads this Aerospace Industry Development Association of Tamil Nadu. He referred me to someone who was connected to Professor Satya Chakravarti. So that is literally fourth level of connection, which started from a complete random conversation with my, wife at that time. So, and then I mailed him, and I remember Moin and I were...
You married right, I tell you. The right partner really matters, huh?
That too, working from home, that has become very clear.
Yeah. We need another hour for that one. So
yeah, that's a different story. Yeah, sure. And then, like, I remember Moin and I, we were like super nervous. We were going to talk to Professor Satya Chakravarti for the first time, and like, is he going to buy this idea? What are we going to tell him? That he should first of all take us seriously, and so on. So, but then again, there was this big stroke of luck everywhere. Like, if you like, that is what I want as the moral of the story. If there's so-called a moral, is that I think we just kept trying till the point where luck was in our favor. Like, you don't always have luck, but you will eventually have luck, or occasionally you do have luck, and you should be trying at that time, right? So we just went brute force, trying till luck was in our favor. That's how I think it worked out. So Moin and I, we reached out to Prof, and then he actually had, interestingly, he was also super busy, but he was interestingly having a few ideas on how to build a rocket. And he was actually excited in hearing about this. So we went on a couple of Skype calls. And then there was this one call where we realized that he was in, and he was actually willing to help us. And that is when I decided, okay, I don't have anything to do in LA after this. I should pack my bags and move back. So that's how the whole story came together.
Wow, you moved from LA all the way to Madras just to pursue the dream. I think it's so interesting what you were saying, right? When you say luck, I think people don't really understand what luck is, right? Luck is not just happenstance. When you've got hard work, planning and perseverance, right? And that meets with an opportunity, that's luck. You could be presented an opportunity to do something, but what if you're not ready? And what's happening is that you're consistently, like, you're persevering, you're planning, like, what's the other person going to think? How should I be approaching this person? How often should I be approaching him? You knew how busy they were, right? And then obviously, the hard work was there. And then the opportunity arises. Then you can say, okay, good, bam, magic happens, luck is there.
I fully agree with you. It's almost like, I actually have this chart that I sometimes show people in my team also, right? It's if you plot like, output versus hard work. Sometimes there are phases of life where for the same amount of hard work, you suddenly get a lot of output, right? But then, and that is, if you call it luck, you should be putting in that hard work. Otherwise, you're not going to get anything, which is exactly what you were saying as well. So I think that part we try to make sure we are doing. And then you never know when it'll come. I think in one of my writing classes, I heard this from a writer, actually, because writers go through this struggle too in the film industry, right? It's not easy to get a break. And I heard that, you just keep writing 100 pages, 100 bad pages, and then there's one good page that comes. Sort of like, but you need to keep writing those 100 pages to get that one good page. So I think all those things were somehow, driving me in this direction as well. So
it's like no one's an overnight success, right? That overnight could be 20 years long, right? So that's how long it sometimes is. So you come back, you obviously go to IIT Madras, you've got this thing going, right? And then you convince, I think Speciale was your first investor to come in. So how did that conversation go? Because I know the Speciale guys, and thanks to you, we got a little bit closer during this round. They're like really, really good. Like, they know exactly what they're doing, and it's a very focused tech fund, right? And obviously these are not the kind of guys that are going to go, you were a financial engineer, now you're aerospace, we're going to put money into you, right? But these guys really know what they're doing. How do you convince someone with that level of precision and understanding of your kind of tech? How do you convince them to invest into you, right? And into your story?
So by then I think we had reached out to some 150 people in that time. This was like early 2018, I think. And somewhere around July, we met them at a Thai Chennai event, which was organized by IIT Madras Incubation Cell. And it was a 10-minute conversation. Moin and I went together, and Vishesh, the managing partner, was there. I actually didn't know how to start, because in 10 minutes, it's very hard to sell this idea from scratch. At least I didn't know how to do it at 10 minutes at that time. So I just asked him, okay, what do you want me to talk about, the founding story or the product? He was like, just talk about the founding story. I don't know that very well. So there was literally just 10 minutes.
Floored. I think that was it.
Probably, right? I also remember that it was only 10 minutes and we had to still tell at least something about the product. So I just went, and Moin and I told, and Moin also has a very interesting circuitous career path, by the way. So we just told him each of our stories.
We're definitely going to have him on the show. That's why I'm not. We're just going to figure out how you guys met, but then don't give that story. We need it for the future show.
Right. Okay, sure. Yeah. So we told that to Vishesh, and at that time I didn't know that they already had a view on space tech, and they already had research that there was a market for this and so on. Came back, and then I, as usual, sent my thank you note and the deck and all that. Yeah. Then he again asked me for a meeting, and then another meeting, and then he visited us in IIT. And then things started. So I think with Vishesh and Arjun, both of them, I think it used to say that on the website, and then now they've revamped their website. I don't know if it still says that. But they used to say we focus more on the founders and their idea as opposed to the product itself. And I think that's what really happened. But they also had a very clear view on that there is a gap here in the market. So because they had that, it was easy for us to go and say, now that there is a business case, this is how we are different. Right. So we just had to focus on that. And the same team that you also saw, they saw a smaller version of that, but still the passion was there, I guess. So the team also played a big role. And of course, Professor and the lab that we were working out of, all of those were, just building blocks. And I think luckily it happened.
Yeah, we tried very hard to get into that round. We're just about 15 days late, I think, in committing. Someone like a Speciale is really good to get at the stage of your kind of tech company, right? Because I think they had that mindset for tech. And I think when we spoke to them, they just gave us so much confidence to invest in the business side. Because, I'm more of a Dhanda investor. I like tech, but I like the tech to make some Dhanda as well. So for me, when they explained it, I was like, yeah, this actual business case makes sense to us. Right. So how did you meet? Now let's talk about how did you meet Moin? How do you guys separate what he does, what you do for Agnikul?
So Moin and I are like cricket buddies in a way, and I don't play much cricket, by the way. So there is this common set of friends that we had. So that is how we connected. So he used to play cricket with them, and we never used to play that much cricket, but at least I used to hang out with them because when I drink, if I drink, I get a bad headache. So I don't drink. And he doesn't as well. So we were like the people who really didn't, we didn't have anything else to do when others were drinking, sort of. So anyway, that's how it started. And then, again, I don't want to reveal his story, but he was also looking for a change at that time, which is when I was also telling about these things, right? Moin and I have very different personalities and skill sets. So actually that complements very well. He's like he's a law enthusiast, right? He loves all the stuff legal. He tries to understand why law should work the way it should work and so on. I mean, recently I've learned a little bit of that, but at that point, barely knew anything about law. Only thing I knew, I think, that movies like A Few Good Men or something where good courtroom dramas are all I was aware of. But beyond that, nothing else.
You'll be a founder long enough, you'll become a lawyer for sure.
That is exactly what Moin says, actually, because he was doing other stuff by himself, and that is how he also got into this. Yeah, so that's how it started. So now he does a lot of the ops work. Moin is really, really good at vendor management and getting things done, sort of a guy. For me, systems comes a little more easily, and vision, obviously, about the rocket itself and the tech part. I absolutely love the tech part of it. So that's how we split the work. And yeah, it's been going pretty good. Because there is actually like a need for his skill set on my skill set and they don't overlap, it's great. Like together, we fill a lot of empty spaces.
Absolutely. And I think that's the key, right? That's the key that the way you guys are able to even manage what's happening in COVID is because there's a very clear distinction of responsibilities in the founding team. That makes a huge difference. So obviously after got Pi, you now got raised a larger round where you've got participation. We entered. 5 ventures led the round. We've got, and especially also co-invested. You had Globe, you had Let's Venture. You had like a whole host. You had an entire buffet of available investors into your company. And I think you overshot whatever you guys were trying to raise. You guys raised a little bit more than that.
More.
And there was also interest from other funds to put in more money, saying, but there just wasn't space in the round. So tell us a little bit about how do you raise that round and where does that take you in terms of your...
I think, yeah, I mean, obviously for the second round, I mean, already we had this rapport with Speciale going, right? And they knew us and they had trust in us, but we had to find the next set of people who will be convinced. And I think I should definitely thank Pi Ventures for that. Manish there was, I mean, we were talking since I think almost right after the round. We closed the previous round and like Feb or something. And then right after that, we started talking again about the next round because it was a small round. It was like a less than $500,000 round, right? And at that time, I think Manish and team at Pi Ventures actually had their homework done for that there is some sort of a gap here in the business standpoint, and that's where it started. So once that happened, then I think after a little bit of effort, we realized that there is some momentum building around space tech in India, and of course, a lot of things was happening in the world, right? Like, SpaceX is a big reason why I think money is flowing into space today for anyone, for that matter. And they were doing so many cool things. So the fact that there is more and more of this talk going on, there was actual market sizing available and all that. I think that is how this round slowly came together. And there was this one point where we got really lucky and we actually had more interest than what we wanted to raise. So I think that is again, it's the same story again, like how I found Professor Satya with Moin. It's the same story. We were just looking for people, and then at one point in time, when we got lucky, we had more opportunity available in money form. So that's the story there. I think this money is really important for us from two aspects, right? One thing is to scale the team. We were about 35, I think, before this round was frozen. I think for the kind of development and testing we're planning now, it's about 65 to 70 people we would need. So this money is definitely going to be important to hire those people and also to build out ground systems to test. A rocket is actually a vehicle. So just to demystify that part, right? So that it's not looking like rocket science. In fact, we tell that in all our placement sessions. Rocket science need not be rocket science because that was coined at a different time. No, I'll tell you a story about that if we have time later, okay? Because I actually feel the term rocket science came into being at a time when we had like 1/10 of the technology we have, 1/100th of the technology we have today. So what was so difficult back then need not be difficult. I mean, it is still hard, very hard, but it's not like crazy hard, I think. This money is going to be useful for, building out our systems and doing a lot of ground testing. So a rocket it's like a car, right? So you have an engine, you have all of the electronics that go in, you have these structures. And then you also do a little bit of autopilot because any rocket accident, the word autopilot, I think, came from the rocket industry because it is the first thing where the moment you hit the launch, you go to zero, right? In your countdown. After that, you just sit and watch. That's all you can do. Things are happening so fast and so many things are happening that there is no question for humans being in the loop. The
Absolutely.
only thing humans do is hit a button to terminate the flight if the flight is doing something wrong. That's the only interaction you have, nothing else. So that is the important thing to focus on now, doing all of those ground tests. So that is what we're working on right now. So that is what this money is also going to be helping us with.
Obviously, you've raised this money. It's been 5 or 6 months, and obviously you raised the money, and then I think right after that, everything started to fall apart for the world, right? So obviously through this journey, you've now been a funded company for almost 2 years. What is the role your investors have played in your startup journey?
So, I mean, obviously, beyond the money part itself, I think one is a network, right? Both from an investor standpoint and outside of. And I think in this particular context, not just because I'm talking to you, I should really tell my thanks to Vinod and you for all the, we almost starting to send you, I think, weekly emails on, hey, please connect to
Yeah.
these following people. and then
I
actually
feel like
you
your
have
supply side, like it's in the list.
And it's great because, and I'm sure Moin will have a lot to say about this when you talk to him because he does a lot of the supplier work. And it's amazing when we go through the investor route, when you approach a big supplier, sometimes they take us much more seriously and you get the connect at the right level, right? Otherwise, you're going through the usual sales routes from the bottom and probably you won't get the priority that you should get. So, networks are great. And I also think the biggest fact is, I mean, this is a little bit of an intangible thing, but the confidence, right? When we know that so many people are willing to trust us with their money directly, I think it actually is also motivation and a sense of responsibility, right? So the more number of investors we have, we actually feel like, okay, now we are answerable to all these people because we are doing something big with their money. So that, in a sense, also pushes us to do really, really well. But yeah, networking has been like the biggest one.
To tell you the truth, I didn't think we had such a strong network or a large one until we had an aerospace company. Whereas, oh wow, we actually know people all the way here, right? And we could find a beeline. Again, I should thank Moin because his requests are so specific, right? And he knows what he's looking for. So it makes it just easy for us to go, okay, good, this is what I have to do, right? Or like for Vinod to go, let me just go through my 16,000 contacts in my phone and go like, who would know this person? A lot of time founders give very generic requirements. I'd like a good supplier, or I'd like to get, X, Y, Z. And you're like, well, I know 10,000 people who can do it, right? But I don't know who to contact. But I think the thing with Moin is like, and probably because it's also rockets, so there's not that many people, but it's very specific. I need this, I need that. And it's very easy to then, keep up with that kind of a list. And obviously the follow-up skills from you guys are legendary, right? So we have to keep up with that. So tell me what's new at Agnikul? What's happening? I know you guys have some exciting new, snazzy website you guys created. Let's talk about what's happening there.
Yeah, so that real old website was actually quite bad, I should say. Now, if I look at the current website, so yeah, to all of you who are, watching this, please do check out our website. I think we have really tried to tell the story right this time. In the sense, it captures all aspects of it, and at the same time, tries to reiterate the real differentiators that we have as a company. So it took a lot of work and some thought because you do see a few other companies who make rockets, and we didn't really get the core essence of what they're trying to do. There is a lot of product description, right? But why should buying a rocket launch not be like buying a laptop, right? You should be able to go choose your mission, have a bunch of drop downs, organically just lead you to, hey, this is a rocket, this is where you launch from. Yeah, we'll take this forward for you. So that we wanted to actually get it to that level, and that is what the company is about, making space access so obvious and so easy. So website, we also try to reflect that part. It should really be like, I don't know how the Dell laptop is today, but it used to be like that when I was buying a Dell laptop. Now I've switched to Mac after going to US now. But the Dell was like, you can literally choose everything. And after you just do all that, hey, you have a laptop here. You can just hit buy and you'll buy it. So that is the idea. And I think now Tesla website is also like that a little bit. So Rocket's website
it's very
should also
interesting.
be
You
like
scroll
that.
down and the rocket sort of opens up, right? And you scroll up and it's sort of the rocket comes together and sort of launches for you, right? I think let me take our audience questions. I think we've got a couple of people now that are asking this question. Alok Gupta asked it. What is your plan for launching Agniban? Or I guess Agniban is not the launch itself, right? I guess that's just...
Agniban is the product. It's the name of the rocket. Agniban is the name of the vehicle. So what is our plan in the sense? Probably if COVID is not very disastrous, then maybe two years from now, we should be ready. So end of 2022, I think we should have something going to attempt a first orbital launch. Yeah, and it is going to be from a mobile launch platform. So we're very clear that, like let's say we approach a launch port, right? And it could be any launch port. We don't want them to be, building too many things for us. It should be like we go in, we set up shop, finish up and come back. That's it. And again, like our professor Chakravarti, right? He compares it with like how you occupy a wedding hall, right? It should literally be like that. You come in
There's
with all
just too
that
much
plethora
wedding talk on this conversation.
okay. But yeah, it is so
I know
it's
you're
at least
working
it's
from
about
home, yeah.
organizing a wedding. Right. So that is exactly the idea. And I think there are a few other things places where this happens, where you're organizing any big, like a event or something, right? You come, it's just an event hall, and then you come in, you do stuff, and you go back. That's how it's supposed to be. So that's our plan actually for launching Agniban.
There's a question over here as well, but before we go there, I just want you to people can understand, what does a mobile launch platform mean, right? Because that's a very key part of your technology.
Yes.
So
Right.
yeah, if you could explain that.
Sure. So it's a platform where you don't have like a fixed infrastructure to support your rocket until it launches. So for example, if you look at a PSLV launch or a SpaceX launch, because these rockets are so big, they have like these permanent structures which are extremely complex from both the electrical and a structural standpoint. And you bring in your rocket there, and then you connect it to that structure, and then you do your last bit of checks, and then you launch. We instead decided that that entire structure can also be mobile. So you bring your rocket along with the launch pedestal, as they call it. You erect it where you want to launch it from, and then you launch and you go back. So that is what a mobile launch platform is. So what this will allow is you don't get stuck to one geography. Anywhere you want to launch from, you can launch. Any authorized launch port, you can launch from.
So the key differentiator then is you're not always standing in line to find a launch port at
Right.
a ISRO or a or DARPA site or something. You're saying, okay, listen, I can just go into the middle of a large enough field and probably launch the rocket from right there.
Well, it won't be that simple because you still need clearances and stuff. But yeah, that could happen. Like if
I'm saying
regulation
theoretically,
catches up
right?
there. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Theoretically, yes, right, exactly right.
So that's what makes it easier, right? Because don't have. I mean, probably also costs a lot.
And you have access to so many places, right? Because you're really, like you said, you're just looking for land. That's it. So any place which can support a launch, you can go and launch. You don't need any other, like you don't need like a big infrastructure in the place where you want to launch from, because you're bringing all of that with yourself.
Exactly.
So that's the difference. Yes. Yeah.
So there's a question that any reusability plans in the pipeline?
Yeah. So I think this is now with SpaceX doing reusability. I think this is like you need to bring back your first stage. Otherwise, you're not cool enough now in the rocket industry. So yes is the answer, right? Definitely not immediately, but yes is the answer. The technology we use will allow for that to be attempted. So we might do that, but not in the first launch. But also there is a business angle here, right? So for example, to again start with SpaceX, what falls off when the rocket is done with their first stage is about, I think, like a $60 million price tag worth of hardware that's falling. For us, I think that will be a fraction of that. So is it worth even catching it? Is a question. Right? So you will have to think of the business angle as well, because it is not free. Reusability is not free. You do shave off a little bit of the capacity you take to space because you want to bring your rocket back. So now for a big rocket and for a very expensive rocket like what SpaceX has, it definitely makes sense. I think the line that Elon Musk used when he was telling his team to attempt reusability is, imagine there is a bag of $60 million of cash falling down. Will you not want to catch it?
In fact, I think there's a bunch of questions. Obviously, we're talking about the technology now, so there's a lot of questions now coming in. So another question that came in is that this is from P. Srihari 169, which is 100 kilogram payload capacity. Is that enough to compete in the small satellite market?
Yeah, I actually think it's little on the higher side. Actually, if you look at the kind of small satellites being launched, you see a lot of them in the 10 to 50 kg area. And after that, you have like a few around 100 and a few around 200, 300 and so on. So yes, is the answer to the question. I actually think we're already in a more accommodative side of things.
And I think also because you can actually decide how many engines to put on the rocket. I think that makes
exactly.
I think that's the part we haven't talked about, right?
Oh yeah,
3D print,
we'll talk about that.
Right. So you can sort of 3D. And again, I'm just learning this from you guys. That you're 3D printing those that part, and you can. I think there's a sieve of 9, right? There's a platform where you can put 9 engines.
Seven engines. 7.
Sorry. So 7, and you can decide how many to put depending on the payload.
Exactly.
Am I right?
Yeah.
I guess
that's exactly right. That's exactly
right. Agnikul, like where do we start?
Sure. You can start with that. Yeah. So yeah, that's actually going to be even more helpful, right? Because it's like buying a higher variant of the car you want to buy. So If you want to put bigger masses, you can add more engines or you can reduce engines. So that is a key part of our strategy as well. And I don't see others doing that. So yeah.
Cool. So, and there's another question that the mobile launcher will erect the rocket. How will they take care of the prop land loading and the water dilute system? Separate trucks for them? Will they be shipped along too? I think it's a very technical question. Just take a maybe. So it's from somebody called Garib Scientist.
Oh yeah.
I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So very specific question. Maybe a very generic answer would be awesome because it'll get too long if you start explaining the tech.
Right. So a mobile launch pad is only one part of the launch system. So that is the answer to his question. So all these things, Garib Scientist is talking about. By the way, I should thank him. Okay, he got our Twitter followers from like some 500 to some 3,000. So I should thank him for that because he did a video about Agnikul and other space startups in India, and our followers is jacked up. So thank you, Garib Scientist, if you're listening to this. But yeah, to answer your question, it is not just one piece of hardware. You do have a launch pedestal, the Dhanush part, and then you do have a propellant, bunch of tanks for propellant loading. You do have the water deluge system. Everything that you mentioned, they'll all be a bunch of things. So that is why the whole wedding hall analogy comes in from what Professor says, right? You move in with a bunch of people and they're supporting equipment, you do the work, and then all of you go back and you leave no trace. That's the idea.
In recent Your Story article, you said that Agnikul is the Uber for putting satellites in space, right? Mm-hmm. And so why do you call this an Uber-like service?
So it's about the scale, right? So instead of a bus, it's a Uber. That's how I should. If you're taking a bigger rocket to space, it's like taking a bus from say here to Bangalore or something, from Chennai to Bangalore. Then a bus takes like some 30 people, right? But instead, if you just want to take 3, 4, or maybe even one person, and you want it in that kind of a time span, like literally like opening an app and ordering. So that is the core concept of making space so accessible. So that is where the Uber angle comes in. So Ola space is also fine. Yeah, but similar story.
Uber, Ola, yeah. Call it the Everest of space. We've got Everest in the portfolio.
Right.
Obviously, the biggest comparison for you obviously is always going to be SpaceX, right? And because it's the most visible, it's the most talked about. But do you see them as a competitor? How do you think you guys are different?
Yeah, so it's actually interesting because they're targeting a completely different market. Like I think even today, I think I saw something from you about what Elon Musk is saying about going to space, Mars and so on, right? So they're in a league where they're into deep space missions and the rocket sizes are so big. So I would say competition and all that is too big a word to use. To us, actually, SpaceX is an inspiration. At least to me, it has been one of the biggest inspiring stories. I literally moved to LA because I wanted to be close to SpaceX.
Oh,
right?
wow.
Like, literally that. So, I mean, of course, because with SpaceX...
Leon, if you're listening in, we're doing a Series A next year for this man.
So, I think they target a very different class of, items. Like, if they are making trains, we are making cabs. So, it's very different. Like, you cannot put that on the same platform at all. Right? Of course, same set of people can take a ride, can share the ride. Sometimes people can go in trains or in a car. So that's possible, but it's literally two extremes of the market segment. So that's how it compares.
So you would consider something complementary versus competitor.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Okay. So I think a lot of people have asked this question now and I guess it's a good one. Like how does, the government obviously has made a big move. And I think all of us were caught by surprise. I think we had a conversation right after, right? Neil Data or even Avi Tennis, Fully Food Gram, all of them are asking similar questions that what's the government doing to support companies like yourself? Have you received the kind of support you're looking for? What role is ISRO playing today for Agnikul?
So a couple of angles to the question, right? So first of all, I think a lot of people ask about the whole private player engagement with ISRO, right? And it's actually interesting to see that ISRO has always engaged with private players. Nothing new about that, right? I think they have a really robust vendor system. Like a lot of vendors we talk to have also supplied to ISRO and so on, right? So ISRO has always allowed the private sector to participate. Now, so you're only talking about the shades, the levels of participation, right? Are you going to be making an engine or a component of an engine or a full rocket stage or the full rocket? It's a spectrum that you're talking about, not exactly like, oh, okay, now only things are opening up for the private sector. I wouldn't call it that way. So it has always been there. The new thing now is there is this whole new entity that has been, proposed, and I think it is already action has started, where It has been set up specifically with focus on enabling private players to participate more deeply in, ISRO's missions. And I remember words from both the current chairman and I think when the announcement was made, both I think first by the finance minister, about actually allowing people to go even into the deep space criteria. Like for example, a company like Agnikul could participate in even a Mars mission, and that is huge, right? So
In
there
fact,
is
I'd
no
heard about Agnikul in I think the Japanese 2040 mission to colonize space, right?
okay,
And they knew about Agnikul, and they were like, yeah, we know who you, we know this company,
okay,
and we've talked to the founder, and you could actually become a component player for them, right? Because you could put small components into space, which they can then pick up and take it to the
precisely,
moon, right?
precisely. So that is what is happening. So I think it's great from a enabling system standpoint. Now that we know that ISRO is actually going to directly have a mandate to support initiatives like this, I think that's the best we can ask for from the government to start with, right? Of course, if we can get some money through grants or something, all that is even great. But first, the fact that now you're allowed, like they've just opened up the way to have a SpaceX in India, I would say, right? So that is, I think, a
Fantastic.
big thing.
And so we've invested in the SpaceX, so we're good. If any investors who've logged in from my side, guys, we found our winner. Let's move into the rapid fire with one last question. I think, what is the impact that this would have basically on launching of your rockets? Do you think you'd be able to do it in India? Would that be cheaper than what the earlier plan to probably go abroad when we were investing, right?
Right. I think always India was a plan. Now I think it has made it simpler. There's a framework now, right? I think that is the best way to put it. Before it was a little more like you had to write to ISRO and they'll get back to you, and things will take time because you don't have a system. But now there's a system.
Cool. So there's a lot of questions about your tech, and let's go to rapid fire. If we have some more time, Garib Scientist, Srihari, we're going to come back to your questions. If not, you guys, Agnikul now has an account. Please personally message. But let's move to the rapid fire. I think I've explained this section to you. Basically, I'm going to ask you a series of questions. You have to give me quick answers, right? You cannot be thinking about it, and don't worry, that nothing is politically motivated here. So it's very, very simple. But the first thing that comes to mind, you answer it, and if the answer is something that you want to explain, then we can also get into the explanation bit, right? So, Are you ready? We have roughly about 8 minutes to go through this before we get that 2-minute warning to start shutting it down. So, first question, and it's a Peter Thiel question, right? One thing that you know to be true, but very few people agree with you on it.
Luck plays a really big role in doing any entrepreneurial venture.
Luck, like we decided what luck is, right? Okay. So guys, hard work is still required. You can't just be throwing darts in the dark, right? And then think that it's gonna hit the bullseye. One thing that you're obsessed with right now.
Besides Agnikul, or can I just say Agnikul and leave it at that?
Besides Agnikul, obviously, I think this entire show was about how obsessed you are with Agnikul. But is there anything else that you're obsessing over today?
Yeah, I follow a lot of film gossip, movie industry gossip. So that's my go-to relaxation strategy.
What's the gossip that you're into right now?
Mostly in the Tamil film industry. So that's what I follow now.
If an investor can provide one value to you besides the money, what would it be? I think you sort of answered it, but is there anything else?
Literally is jumping out of my network. I think that's the biggest one. I think because I think investors have that, and that will be tremendous for a startup. So yeah.
Network. Okay. One piece of advice that you received on entrepreneurship or being a founder that you still follow.
Don't be afraid to fight for what you believe in, even if people say it's not okay. Yeah, until you really, really know that, things, there is a lot of, how do I say this? Even if you hear a lot of skepticism to your idea, but if you believe in it, keep going for it. I think that's
so important, right? Yeah. Until you get a final no, keep persevering. Let's see. Can you put these in the order of importance to you? Team, founder, customers, investor. Which one of these comes first? Which one of these comes last?
Founders, team, customer, investors.
Perfect. Okay. Your biggest advice to founders about fundraising?
Narrate the story right. Narrate the story well. I think that is the thing that I was lacking, I think also the most. And yeah, that's most important. Tell the story. Are you
talking about the founder story or the story for the company? Which one of those two stories?
The whole story. Story of the product, the company, how this whole thing came together. Why does this make sense? The why part of it, the story behind the why, that should be very clear.
Oh, guys, you got to hear this again. Start with why, right? I think we've been talking about this every single time. okay, one thing you would like to change about the Indian startup ecosystem.
More hardware startups. Yeah, I think we don't have enough hardware, and I think Make in India should become Design in India, and I think only startups can really push that forward. So more hardware is definitely going to be the thing. Yeah, I would really like to see that.
I think there needs to be more support, at least for us as funds, also government or even agencies where they give us some funds to even put in money into hardware, because I think Indian investors just have too many opportunities, and to invest in hardware that could take 10, 12 years to return money back, right, or become massive. I just don't think we have the kind of maturity, or maybe the cost of capital is just too expensive, right? I mean, you can go to the stock market, get 16, 18, 20% over a 10-year period, or we put money into a hardware company that could take 15 years before returning money, right? I mean, look at Tesla and all these guys. It took time to become massive. I don't think that kind of capital is available, so we need some help. But I completely agree. I think there's such a huge story to play in Indian hardware, and we have such a huge cost advantage, right, compared to the world. So, completely agree with you on that one. If you could pick the brains of one person for 24 hours, ask them anything you want, who would it be? Like, you literally have them for 24 hours. Huh?
Can I pick someone who's not here, like Albert Einstein?
Yeah, great. Okay, Albert Einstein, I guess. But let's say if it was somebody who was still alive, who would that be?
24 hours. I think the screenwriter, Aaron Sorkin. I wouldn't want to talk to Musk because I think it would demystify that whole thing. I think that mystery part of Musk actually keeps me going. So I wouldn't want to talk to him actually for that.
Is he an alien? Is he not? You are an active blogger, right? You write, obviously. So what is the blog you just started following?
I think something on physics. I don't remember the name now, but something about like, why does dark matter occupy most of the universe or something like that. So yeah, that's the kind of stuff I like reading also. So yeah.
Good. So you guys can find that. And now this is the last question. I think this is the most important question. Someone's already asked it. So where will you launch from first?
Wow, that depends really. Okay, we would like to launch from India. Let me put it that way. But we don't know what will happen, right? Our preference would be to launch from India first, obviously. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
Great. So that comes to the end of our rapid fire question. I think we made it out relatively unscathed. And
thank you.
Great answers. We've got maybe a couple of questions.
Maybe we can talk about the non-tech questions. Too many tech questions. I'm also seeing.
I know, right? Everyone's just like I think you may have some customers over here all of a sudden.
Oh wow!
Do you have projects aboard the International Space Station or participating in the Indian Space Station? Is there any opportunity for Agnikul over there?
Yeah, I mean, the technology translates, right? So we could do if the Indian Space Station, when the plan is clear and it's open to private players, would love to be a part of that. It's going to be a big thing. So would love to be a part of that. Again, the technology we build, it's across so many different areas. So it can easily be molded into whatever is the real need. So this toolkit that we build in the journey of building a rocket is so strong that you could do anything from, I think I told you this even during when we first met, and I was telling you about, or I think we know about this, that, we could make scuba tanks with some of the technology that we're building, scuba diving tanks. So, and
I'm a scuba diver.
Best part. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Passionate about scuba.
Really? Okay. Nice.
So you wanted one non-tech question. I have a non-tech question. Aditya Wadhwa asks, your favorite actors. I think we'll end with that question.
My favorite actors. Tamil, there's a guy by name Vijay Sethupathi, so I like him a lot. Hindi, Shah Rukh Khan. I mean, I think even now, go to Netflix and watch a movie I've already watched 100 times to unwind sometimes. Yeah, so, yeah.
I think his last movie had something to do with space, right? Him getting on some rocket. I don't remember. I didn't see it, but
oh, really?
Where he plays the dwarf, right? I think.
Oh, yeah, right. I didn't watch that movie. I didn't watch that movie. Swadesh, of course, has a more direct connection. It starts off with a rocket launch, actually, if you remember. So, and I watched that movie too many times. Yeah.
Inspiration to come back to India.
Well, maybe it's not a direct inspiration, but maybe it played a role. Yeah.
It was, again, a great session. Thank you so much, Srinath. Really enjoyed every single minute of today's show, just like I have the last 8. But any final thoughts before we end?
No final thoughts. I think I've already shared a lot of stuff that I've usually not told so many people. Definitely not in like a live stream like this. So thank you for giving me the chance. And I think we created the Instagram account because of this. And now I'm seeing a lot of people actually following us here. So hopefully this will also help us, get the word out about what we're doing and so on. So thanks for
Yep.
that. And of course, thanks for this time as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Srinath. Really, really enjoyed. I think next time when we have Moin, we'll have maybe even more audience, right? And then maybe you can be asking
Right.
the questions. Bye. Thank you so much. Good night.
Bye.
Good night,
Thank you.
everybody. Really enjoyed. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.